So hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. I'm your host, intuitive counselor and spiritual guide, Victoria Shaw. And I'm so excited for the conversation we're going to have today. Our guest is Kathy Rose, who's been with us before. But if you haven't heard that past episode, and I recommend that you go back after, I know you're going to go back after this one and want to hear that one too. But Kathy is a very gifted and I think really kind of enlightened astrologer who has a YouTube channel, does a lot of teaching about astrology, and has this unique way of, I think, really explaining stuff without the jargon, bringing it really down to earth, and keeping it upbeat and positive, which is not something that we always find in the astrology world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah. And she's my go-to personal astrologer now since I've discovered her work and had her on the show and followed her YouTube, which is just a great source of information. And she does these little monthly updates and a yearly update. So you can really kind of get a feel for the energy that's coming for you, for the collective. And one of the things that she's been talking a lot about this year is this idea of imposter syndrome. And I'm going to get it from her, but the way that I understand it, Kathy, is like, this is the year that we can really like dig into where that's showing up in our lives and clear it.
Yeah, there is a theme that is being presented right now, and especially for women. And it has to do with the fact that Saturn and Neptune have moved into Aries. And Aries is a masculine sign, and it's a fire sign. And it has to do with courage and assertive energy and pioneering. And it favors men in some ways. However, what this is doing, because when we have Saturn and Neptune together, these are two opposite energies. Saturn is very grounding and practical, and Neptune is very spiritual and flowing and abstract. So we have something really interesting happening in that women need to come into alignment with their core levels of wisdom, their core levels of expertise, and believe themselves, trust themselves, project this confidence, and release the doubt. Yeah. And this is a byproduct of what's happening with this energy in Aries right now.
Yeah, I love that. I know for me personally, one of the things that I realized, and sometimes I'm a little ahead of the game, but one of the things that I've realized probably in like the last 6 months was that probably the most profound, positive, like change that's impacted the work that I do, how I show up in the world, how I live is self-trust. And I realized like how through the course of my entire life, but especially recently, it's just really kicked in, I think, really since I made my move to California, which was, sort of a big leap of faith. I just live with so much more self-trust. And it's a game changer in every aspect, including my intuition and the work that I do. And now I tune into myself first when there's a disconnect between what I believe and things that other people say or things in the world. It's not that I discount them completely, but I tune into myself first and I say, honey, how does this feel to you? And I trust that. Like I trust that intuition first and foremost. It's changed my life.
Good for you, because that is the other byproduct of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I call it spiritual self-sufficiency, which is self-trust. It means going within and getting your answers directly, as opposed to going to a guru or going to a psychic or a medium or somebody else that you consider to be an expert. So there are a couple things here. First of all, you mentioned that it was about 6 months ago when you had this deeper level awareness. Well, that's when Saturn and Neptune first entered Aries for a short period of time. Now, what's fascinating to me, I've been doing astrological consultations full time for 42 years now. And it was only last summer that my female clients started to offer up in conversation that they were dealing with imposter syndrome issues. And it caught my attention and I went, wow, this is where the energy needs to go. So Saturn and Neptune went into Aries for a short time, then they retrograded back into Pisces. Now they have fully entered the sign. Saturn will only be in Aries for 26 and 27. Neptune will be in Aries for 14 years. So this is really on a larger scale a 14-year wave of development, because it's really Neptune and Aries that's trying to bring about this understanding that femininity, estrogen-based people are connected with the universe on an intuitive level, deeply and naturally. So, what I think about with imposter syndrome is that when men brag, when men boast about their accomplishments, which they're kind of hardwired to do, that's what testosterone does. And I'm not criticizing men. I love men. Okay.
And we're socially conditioned to do that too. It's encouraged in men to
Well, yeah,
boast.
because their whole social system is based on hierarchy. From an early age, when boys are little, they are seeking who's the alpha, who's in charge, the hierarchy, which is why they don't ask for directions, because it lowers their status in the hierarchy when they do. But men are applauded, boys are applauded when they boast about, hey, I got first place. I was top of the class in Harvard. I made the most sales, and, they're applauded. And women are not.
Yep.
When women say the same thing, they're told, who do you think you are? Or tone it down, or, they're criticized or judged in a different way. And what happens is a buildup of women maybe proudly saying one of their accomplishments and getting the look or getting the criticism or not getting the applause, and then they swallow it. They stuff it inside and they don't get feedback. And then when it comes to a moment where they really feel like they have expertise and they should be boldly walking forward with confidence, there's this doubt inside because they haven't gotten the outer feedback that it's real. And the other thing is, the male system is very much based on evidence and things you can prove and things you can measure.
Right.
That's the approach. Women, when we get intuition, when we connect with our wisdom, we can't sometimes prove where it's coming. It's like, I just know, or I had this sense, or it just hit me, like mother's intuition, when your child is sick.
Right. And men have this too, right? I mean, we're talking about the yin and the yang, but
they do have it. They have intuition, but they're hardwired differently.
Right.
Testosterone, I mean, look at male birds. They have the bright, colorful feathers. The rituals they go through to get the female attention. The female bird is in the drab colors. I mean, so again, this is the time. The bottom line is, this is the time for women to become congruent. It's time to be congruent with their expertise, with their sense of power, with their wisdom, and do it in the way that's right for them. I mean, I don't feel comfortable bragging. I don't. It's like I don't want to. I don't need to. I don't need to list a whole lot of accomplishments.
We maybe did a whole episode on this show a few years back called How to Be a Better Bragger. All around how to celebrate you, like how to celebrate yourself and not brag from a place of better than or proving to others, but bragging from a place of owning your accomplishments and what matters to you and feeling good about that.
Yeah.
So,
and then maybe the word bragging
could
be changed to just being authentic and being proud.
Right. And celebrating.
And again, being congruent. Yeah. I think of that coming together in your core, the central core that goes down into the earth and that goes up into the universe, and being congruent, being settled with it, resonating with it, owning it. And so this is a time frame where women need to settle it for themselves. Need to settle it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot in there. There's like a lot of things,
Mhm.
brewing in my mind. One of them, I'm thinking about this individually, but I'm also thinking about this in the collective. And I really do feel that, and I don't know if you agree that, our world and society has been out of balance for a really long time with respect to male and female energy, right? And so
Yep.
words like the male expression of power is
Mhm.
very different than the female expression of power. If those two things were in balance, it would be fine, but they're not. So it feels to me part of what this is inviting us to do is, as women show up more for themselves, as they feel more empowered, as they feel more competent, as they start to trust in their own wisdom as it expresses to them, as they stop trying to fit in to the male model, which is not necessarily as natural for us. We're going to shine and we're going to start to balance things out again.
Absolutely. The masculine and feminine polarity is very different. The masculine polarity focuses outwardly. Feminine polarity focuses inward. So for women, showing up with their expertise, showing up with their power, settling it for themselves means it's an internal thing and it's a vibrational shift in how they are presenting themselves. They're presenting themselves in a way that is solid and powerful, and there's not the frequency of doubt and interference going on. So, for the women listening right now, if you've ever had that moment where you go, yes, I can do this, they're offering me a promotion, I can do this, this is bigger than I've ever done before. Ooh, I hope I can do it. It's
Right.
followed up by that kind of doubt. What will they think? I think I can do it, but I've never had the feedback that I'm really good at this. And if we shift and stop that internal interference, which is not an easy task necessarily, and it requires a habit change, it requires understanding what triggers it,
Right.
and it requires validating yourself as opposed to seeking it from outside.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when you are presenting this cohesive, coherent self love and the peacefulness in the frequency, then you get feedback.
Yeah.
You get feedback. The other person senses it in you. So think about times when you have met somebody who had that kind of solid, core, peaceful energy pattern, unwavering, didn't need to say a whole lot because you sensed it in their
Right.
aura.
Right.
That's where we're heading.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I know personally, the more I'm confident in myself, enjoy myself, like the more I find the people that enjoy me too. It's actually really, really nice. People are like, I feel good around you. I'm like, yeah, because I feel good around me too.
Well, and
Um,
you've taken the step to say, I'm going to trust myself. I'm
yeah.
going to go within and I'm going to get my own answers because number one, I'm capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I have some expertise. I have some accumulated wisdom. So, of course, I would listen to myself.
1,000%. And I would say too, maybe because, as for my living, I'm an intuitive counselor and guide, but I still get help, right? I still reach out to others. I do a yearly session with my favorite astrologer. I have a mentor or coach. I have friends that I talk to about things. I think, and I invite this when my clients come to me too. Like, it's great. We're not, no man, no woman needs to be an island, right? It's great to have support. And, it's like what I tell every client before their very first session with me: you have the answers within you. And my job is to help you find those and reconnect with those. And it's not because it comes out of my lips that it's your truth, right? In fact, it's not. I'm hoping things that come out of my lips are going to point you back towards your truth. But it's your own inner discovery. And you have to tune in within yourself to say, does this resonate or not? And when I seek any kind of support in the outside world, there's a vetting process that goes on. A lot of times, someone will say something to me that because I was wearing my human blinders, like it was an aha moment. Or sometimes I'm getting an astrology reading and I'm like, oh, this is so validating. This is what I've been feeling. Like, I love to know this is in the stars too. But if something doesn't fit,
Yeah.
I recently had an experience with an astrologer, and it was just like somebody that I was hanging out with at a conference, and we did a little service trade, and they said something that I was like, ooh, like I don't like that. I have to. Well, I'll talk to you about it afterwards. I have to talk to Kathy so she can talk me out of that fearful approach, right? But we have to do that for ourselves. Like we can't give our power away to somebody else because they said it, or they say the stars said it, or they say the guides said it, or God said it, right? Because you are an emanation of the one divine source. You actually have God within you. Like you're a piece of that. So here's where your answers lie. That's the way
Yeah,
I
and
see it.
what you're addressing is authority, inner
Yeah.
authority, and connection with that, which is the role that Saturn plays. And so here we
Ooh.
have Saturn and Neptune working together, and Saturn is the habit maker. So the other thing we can look at are the habits we have developed long term around handing our authority over to others or doubting ourselves. One of the things that many women do is they apologize before they speak up, or they apologize before they ask for something. Well, I'm really sorry, but this food is cold and I would like it to be hot.
Right.
And they apologize. And because we're trained to get approval from other people, how other
Right.
people are viewing us is so very important, which it's really not, but that's what
Or
we
I'm
condition.
sorry that my needs exist, right? Or that you're not meeting them, right? Right. We're taught to be, if you have ever ridden on the train in New York City, you will see men and women sit very differently. you know, Women are taught not to take up space, whereas men are just like, let me have it. Right. And I think it's socially conditioned.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And this happens on airplanes all the time.
Yeah.
It's the elbow spread.
Yeah.
And women allow it many times. And, I'm doing an elbow strike to get them to
Oh, me too.
share. Yeah.
I sit down like that. I mean, honestly speaking, I'm a small person, so I don't need as much space as the average man, but nonetheless, like let's not presuppose all the armrests are wholly and completely yours.
Yeah. But if we look at habits, if we, because some of this really is long-term conditioning and programming. The other thing is, the feminine archetype energy is very collaborative. It
Yeah.
is very connecting. I mean, the feminine archetype is the mother, so it is very different than the father who was the hunter-gatherer, let's just say, you
Yeah.
know. But, this collaborative energy that we have, trying to have harmony, trying to get along, trying to cooperate, can create habits again where we apologize before we ask for something, or where we diminish ourselves, or where we can't receive a compliment without giving some sort of self insult,
Right.
which is a form of protection. If I insult myself first or
Right.
criticize myself first, then you can't do it. And
Right.
that's all conditioning and programming that needs to be adjusted right now. This is a power time. This is a pivot period for women, and it is significant. And it doesn't have to do with speaking more loudly. It, it
Right.
doesn't. It doesn't have to do with being more aggressive or assertive. It has to do, again, I go back to this word being congruent. I mean, that just says it all to me. And I don't know if I can articulate it in words as much as I feel it in energy. It's like when we resonate with ourselves, but when we settle it for ourselves. And that's a great quote by, what is the quote? Well, the quote goes, I have already settled it for myself. So all criticism and flattery go down the same drain, and I am quite free.
That's beautiful.
And, I use this quote all the time, and right now I'm not thinking of who said it, but it'll come to me. But, that's the process we're going through. Changing our habits is the first step,
Yeah.
because the habitual apologizing before something needs
Yeah.
to stop.
Well, I think we're taught And I know because I was a girl who grew up with not a tremendous amount of social skills. So I ran into the wall of social disapproval kind of on a regular basis early on. But I remember like I was very like because if I was praised for this, I'd be like, I'm good at this. And I learned very quickly in certain circles that that was no bueno. It was not a good idea to say, I'm a really good artist. No, don't say that, you know? But, like I took pride in my artwork, right? So I do think that a lot of women do have that conditioning. I remember a flip side too was for a while I was doing, alumni interviews for my alma mater, right? So these are college students that wanted to go to Princeton, and I would interview them. And actually all of those were women, so for whatever that's worth. But I was doing these little mock interviews because I did that. My daughter's school invited me to do these mock interviews, and this one boy came in and he was so full of himself, and I found it I found it so off-putting, that he just talked about himself and how awesome he was. And I remember writing down in my little things that a little humility would make your accomplishments pop. Because I was so off put, but I think I was to be honest, looking back, I think I was probably wrong, because that's probably what was expected. That's probably how he was taught. That's that level of confidence, which was really uncomfortable for me. I found him arrogant. I didn't like it. Was probably like all he ever knew and what he was, conditioned to be. And probably he's doing great in the world right now because that's what's expected of him.
So this is not a criticism of men or
No.
male energy. But first of all, they are conditioned to do that, and they are
Yeah.
applauded and they are approved when they do that. Here's an example. There is a male astrologer who spoke at a conference I hosted and then has spoken at others. And I've been in the back of the room watching him, and he begins his lectures in the same way every time. And I like to be in the back of the room because I like to observe. That's my place. I'm like the eagle on the high branch. I like to watch what's going on. So he starts his lectures going, I was always the smartest guy in the class. All the other students were drawing stick figures and I was writing music. The teachers loved me. I was their favorite. I excelled at every sport. I was always top of the class.
That's my
And
guy.
yeah, and I watch the audience because I'm in the back going, ick, ick. I don't want to listen to you because you could have just presented your topic with that confidence energetically without having to say all that.
Right.
But the audience loved it.
Yeah.
And they leaned forward and he grew in status in their mind. So I had to take a look at that and think about that. The conditioning and programming is so strong. When does it energetically cross the line? When is it a plea for, please tell me I'm awesome because I really don't think I am? I don't know. But
right.
or
an expectation that I'm supposed to get up here and preen and tell you why I'm the best birdie out there, and that's just what he's trying to do. I mean, we're going to get off topic a little bit, but if someone who's dating again after 3 decades of not being single, and I think I have a lot of male energy because like I always say I am straight, but because that's how I roll. But I kind of also want a wife, like that. It's
you
like
want a man who's in touch with his feminine, with his
and who wants to take care of me and is interested in me and wants to support me. I've done enough of the other thing. But a lot of times it's not always. I had a nice date last night with a lovely, more what's the word, back and forth conversation kind of guy. But a lot of times it really is the man they just talk about themselves the whole time because they're trying to sell you on something, and I find it just it's not very enjoyable for me. I love people. I'm fascinated by people. So I love learning people's stories and lives, and it's always fun to connect. But sometimes it's a little off-putting. I'm like, I'm really cool too. Are you curious? Yeah. But I think it's just how we're conditioned. Like, I don't think, but I do think, do you think it comes from insecurity a little bit? Like,
I think it comes from conditioning and I think it comes from many things, but the bottom line is I think we're in an adjustment period.
Yes.
I mean, the current president we have, without becoming political, is very much one who sells himself and is not, he doesn't hesitate at all to list his accomplishments. He's the greatest, he's the best.
Right.
So we have that exaggerated right now. When I watch trends, I watch what's being exaggerated, and that alerts me to where there needs to be a correction or a balancing. So, now I have to also say, my husband, and we just celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary a couple days
Congratulations.
ago. Yeah, that's one of my biggest accomplishments, I think. I think to myself, having a long-term marriage, I'm proud of that.
For sure.
And maybe I was just bragging by saying that, right? I don't know.
No, you're
I know.
celebrating what's
Yeah.
special for you. And it's not a comparison. I'm proud of my 30-year relationship that I left, because
Yeah.
that was what my soul was calling me to do. So,
You have to do authentically what's right
you
for
have to
you.
follow your path and be proud of, I'm proud of both things, actually. I'm proud of the 30 years and the last 6, right? So,
Yeah. Well, my point is that my husband is very nurturing, very sensitive, and not somebody who brags. He's
right.
he's a very, very balanced, wise man. In fact, he went to a wonderful college prep school in Nashville, and then he went to UVA back in the day. My husband's in his 70s, but he was a big man on campus at UVA and also at his prep school. All through high school, middle school, and element, he was a big man on campus with tons of accomplishments that I never knew about because he never mentioned them one time. The only way I found out is when we went to some class reunions and people swarmed him and said, "Whoa, you're here." And
Aw,
they started telling me, and I just looked at my husband and went, "Wow, no wonder I love you so much." I mean, I could feel his accomplished energy. I could
right,
feel his confidence, but he never once mentioned it.
right,
And he's definitely a nurturing, giving human being. So he represents the masculine polarity in a more balanced way. And there are a
right.
lot of men who do, because I'm sure men are listening to this right now going, wait a minute, I don't brag.
Yes.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. And I applaud you and you're a wonderful, loving human being. And women need to take responsibility for what they've accepted and the habits they have,
Right.
which is not diminishing themselves, not apologizing for saying, "Hey, I'm proud of having a 37-year-old or 37-year marriage." I just fell into that trap going, "Ooh, should I
Don't
have said
say it.
that?"
Don't say it. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
say it. Say it. And like I said, we
it's
did do an
amazing, isn't
episode
it?
called How to Be a Better Bragger. And again, you can decide if you like the word brag or not, but I
No,
did call it that.
no, that's
But
great.
there's two things that are coming both in my brain at the same time, and I have to find the thread because saying that I lost them. The first one is that, I think that yes, we are men and women. And yes, for most of us, that is a binary thing, not for everyone nowadays. But, and that's totally cool. Um, but actually, this goes to speak with what I'm saying, right? It's not really binary, it's a continuum. And so if you are in a male body right now, you're going to have expression of feminine energy. And if you're in a female body, you're going to have expression of male energy. So the way I understand this, Kathy, and you may understand it differently, but the way that I understand this is, first of all, many women just express more female energy based on the fact that we are in female bodies and identify as female and have the estrogen and all of that good stuff. But even estrogen levels are, they vary from person to person.
Mhm.
Um, but this exists on a continuum. And so whether you are identifying male or born female, this stuff is brewing within you. Whatever those female elements in you, if you're a male, are wanting to be explored. And I think or male, I think women, we have a lot of opportunities to play against male energy because our society skews that way, and we're often being asked to match that energy or find a way to play with that energy. But I think what I hear you saying is a lot of what's going on here is a balancing. It's a
Absolutely.
balancing.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen within everyone. We may be speaking to women right now but we're really speaking to everyone.
So that we become the best version of our authentic self
Right.
with harmony and with peace.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, hey, men, you need to tone it down. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying, hey, women, you need to speak up more. I'm saying resolve the conflict within and let yourself shine because it is energetic. It
Yeah.
is energetic. And masculine and feminine energy doesn't, we can say the polarity. It's the energy as opposed to the sex even.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
we have both within. I'm highly competitive. I mean, and I've always been competitive. I've always been into sports and I, I always wanted to win. And I have an article on my website that I wrote many years ago called Appreciating Women with Aries Energy because I have an Aries moon. All right. So I wrote this article because I noticed when you talk about competition with women, they feel shame. And so I interviewed a lot of women with sun or moon in Aries. And I said, so tell me about your thoughts around competition. And they would go, oh, and they would look away or look around and then they would lean in and whisper, don't tell anybody, but I really do like to win because, we're not conditioned as females, as the feminine energy. We are conditioned and programmed to get along, to be equal, not to win necessarily. So I have that masculine part of wanting to win.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be ashamed of that. We should not be ashamed of that.
Right.
So it's balancing. And again, I go back to habits. I
Right.
think a very useful thing right now for all of us who are wanting to balance in some way or not, wanting to heal imposter syndrome, getting rid of the doubt of saying, I can do this. Well, oh God, I hope I really can. I hope maybe I'm fooling everybody. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I talk to professional women every day who are going up to the next level in career or taking on a new task, who go through that dialogue in the consultation with me. They just offer it up. You know, I started off really believing I can do this, and then all this doubt crept in. Maybe I'm fooling myself. And I said, what are you basing that on? Well, I can't prove I can do it. They
Mm.
said, yes, you can. You can do it. And that's the proof.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
but it's interesting the static interference that doubt creates in our energy field
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the habit of noticing when it comes up, noticing what triggers it. So I like to break it down and say, okay, what is the habit I want to change? As opposed to what is the wound or what is the problem or what is the dysfunction. I like to say habit because
Right.
then, it's easier. Say, what is the habit I want to change? What triggers that habit? What is the outside trigger that gets that habit moving? And then when that habit is triggered, what do I do? What behavior
Right.
comes forward in me? What thought process? What goes on? And then I can say, all right, now I'm going to train myself that when that trigger happens and I feel the beginning of that response, like apologizing for yourself or the inner doubt, putting yourself down, for instance, then alarm bells are going to go off in my consciousness. I'm going to hear doo 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 alarm bells. So I go stop, pause, and create a habit breaker, which could be a mantra, where you're saying something nice to yourself, could be a deep breath. It's a redirection so that you stop going into that habitual behavior and create a new one. And you do it long enough and pretty soon it becomes part of your paradigm. But that's what the planet Saturn offers us. And that's the gift that Saturn and Neptune are trying to create is
Mm.
what is your habit, and do you want to change it?
I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautifully broken down. And I think it's about too getting present with this stuff and recognizing just because something you have an habitual thought or habitual reaction, it doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it true. You get to choose. You get to choose. And so where that insecurity comes up, where that, wanting to shrink yourself down comes up, if you notice it and it doesn't feel right or good to you, you have that ability to make a different choice. You have
And
an ability to learn to make a different choice, because these things, I love the term habit, because that's all they are. They're habits of mind, habits of responding. And once we identify them, they're easy to shift.
And sometimes we do need to see, why did I form that habit?
Yeah.
Maybe you had a mother or a father who, hit you
Right.
when you were bragging, or when you were too bold, or when you weren't acting in the way they wanted. Maybe you
Right.
had, some sort of criticism that lodged that habit. You can do that, but the point is, I want to change the habit.
Yeah.
And it takes hard work, it takes commitment, it takes perseverance, it takes repetition,
Yeah.
catching it when the alarm bells go off, and pausing,
Right.
just pausing, and a
Presence.
classic one is apologizing for taking up space.
Yeah. And I think it's awareness, right? Noticing when it's happening, because some of these things are so reflexive for us that we just think this is
Yeah.
how we have to be.
Hmm.
Having presence with yourself around it, meaning this isn't a time for self-judgment, or I can't believe I'm being such a girl, or whatever it is. A lot of self-love. And then just that shift, that gentle shift. What do I want to do instead? What do I want to say instead? And it can be baby steps too, because sometimes this conditioning has been there to protect us. So
Hmm.
it's a little scary to act differently, right? Because like bad things are going to happen. And so it's sitting with that inner part of yourself, and giving it space and giving it love, and letting it know it's safe to express itself now, that whatever was going on before in your childhood and your conditioning, like, you got this, and you're going to create a safe space for yourself to shine.
Yeah, people throw around the term spiritual bypassing quite a bit now these days. And so I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing. I'm not saying don't notice the
Right.
feelings or the core. I'm saying just do something about it. Make a
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Get active in the principle of saying, the neural pathways have deep grooves in your brain. And when you start a habit, and every time you respond to an outside trigger that brings about the habit in your behavior, the neural pathway gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and slides more actively, and you have to redirect it,
Yeah.
just form a new neural pathway. And that takes strength of will, it takes choice. But it's time for women to shine authentically, beautifully, lovingly. It's time for authority to come forward, merged with love,
Yeah.
merged with compassion, for men and women,
Yeah.
in this solid way, so that there is balance. And one last thing, my son is in his early 30s, and I do a lot of consultations for people born at that time frame, born in the 90s, particularly the mid 90s. There was a big astrological configuration at that time. It's a very, very special group because of that configuration. Well, all of his peers, so these are people who are 33, 34, 35, 36 years old, all in that range. They are all very much focused on respecting women in a new way. I mean, I am so impressed, especially when I'm doing the males in that age group, because they are representing the energy differently. And they are beautiful, loving beings that are going to come forward and go, this is all BS when women are treated in this way. We need to stop that. And I'm so delighted to have given birth to a male born in that time who has such beautiful wisdom in this area. And so delighted that I get to talk to his peers. It gives me great hope.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a great place to end, and a great
Mhm.
place to land, with hope. Hope is always such a good thing. Kathy, I could talk to you all day, but I can't. But this was so helpful. And listeners, I have to tell you something. Kathy and I are actually going to record 2 episodes today. So there's going to be lots of I don't know when they're all going to go live, but lots of opportunities to connect with her on Intuitive Connection. And we'll talk in a minute about how you can connect with her outside of the podcast as well. But I had pitched another topic to her, which we're going to get to shortly. And then she's like, but I really want to talk about imposter syndrome. And, I never say no to a conversation with an awesome person. So I was all in. But then after she said that, I had a slew of clients that came to me, you know, um, with these kinds of concerns. So it goes to show you, like, when something is really in the atmosphere, you called it. You absolutely called it. So I'm sure this episode is going to resonate with so many people. And, my understanding from what you said is this is the time. I mean, this is an invitation for us to really heal this and work with this and form those new habits and move forward in a more, beautiful way, both individually and for the collective. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing this information. And I think it was a really powerful conversation, and people will want to find you. They're going to want to listen to your amazing videos because you put so much great content out there. They might want to work with you. So tell them how to do that, please.
It's easy. My YouTube channel is Rose Astrology. So you can put that into the YouTube search and go to it. My website is roseastrology.com. That's all you need to know.
That's easy. Yeah. So check her out. You're going to love it. Check out the past episodes, all of the episodes. Cause like I said, we're recording 2 today, and whatever you do, keep listening, keep sharing, keep following, keep subscribing, keep liking. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. It's because of you I get to have these conversations and meet these really cool peeps. I am just so very grateful. So much love, and namaste.